You're all invited to a wedding! Yay! A Game of Thrones wedding. Yes, no matter which way you slice it, it seems weddings on this show go about as well as the time I got married.
The sprinklers are going off!
I'm kidding, I'm horribly single. Stephanie, please take me back. This video is a deep dive into episode 5, Game of Thrones lore, and theories on what's to come, but don't worry if you haven't read the book, this is a non-spoiler review. I save all those juicy book and trailer spoilers for my preview videos, so make sure you're subscribed for when that comes out. Now grab your +1 because this is going to be a wedding to remember. Gray skies mark what's a particularly dark episode. We're northeast of King's Landing at Runestone, the home of House Royce. Lady Rhea, Daemon's wife, affectionately known as the Bronze Bitch, is out hunting deer. From her interactions with her cousin Gerald here and later with Daemon himself, it seems like an appropriate nickname, especially considering the Royces were known for their bronze armor. In the book, Rhea falls from her horse and cracks her skull on a stone. She spends 9 days in bed only to get up and collapse, dying an hour later. Daemon at this time was still fighting the Triarchy on Bloodstone, so according to the accounts in Fire and Blood, it couldn't have been him who murdered Rhea. Now I want your opinion here. Did Daemon come with the intention of killing her, or did he see an opportunity and take it? Let's analyze the exact order of events so you can make up your mind. It's important to note here that Rhea is the first one to instigate the chain of events. She's the first one to make a move towards a weapon. In fact, Daemon doesn't even have a weapon. He has to use his stone. You'd think if he came with the intention of killing her, he'd bring a dagger or something. How tragic would it be if Daemon actually came back to Runestone to try to work things out with his wife like his brother instructed him to do, but as soon as he got there, she just started bitching him out and he was like,
"What did you just say, you little bitch?"
The second step is Daemon clocks her reaching for that bow. 3, Rhea prepares to shoot. 4, the horse startles, and 5 is where things get a bit tricky. Is he pushing the horse or merely trying to steady it? To me, it doesn't look like he's pushing the horse at all. It was my interpretation that she's now paralyzed from this fall, which we can see when Daemon pushes his foot against her arm. I do think he was gonna walk away and leave her there, but when she taunts him saying he can never finish, a double entendre because he can't finish with women nor can he finish her, it's what puts him over the line. We never see the kill, but it's heavily implied he's the one who offed her, leaving the stone there to make it look like she bonked her head. The king and Rhaenyra traverse the stormy, narrow sea in the hopes of establishing a marriage with Lord Corlys' son Laenor and the princess. This just goes to show you how desperate Viserys is. Normally he'd have the Valyrians travel to him and they would be begging for this engagement, but Corlys knows he has the upper hand, plus the king slighted him by choosing Alicent to wed instead of his daughter. It was rumored last episode that Laena might wed the Sea Lord of Braavos, which would severely diminish the Targaryens' power in the realm, and to add insult to injury, no one is there to greet the king when he arrives. He has to make his way up this giant-ass cliff and pass the Hall of Nine, basically a giant hall honoring the 9 great voyages Corlys undertook, which made his house extremely wealthy. On his second voyage, Corlys sailed further east than any Westerosi had ever reached at the time, a place by the name of Asai by the Shadow. So far east, it's not even on the map. But back to the ship where we see the worst job ever, the Royal Vomit Bucket Carrier. Beside the king is Lord Lionel Strong, who, like in the book, has been promoted to Hand of the King. Otto Hightower, as we know, was fired last episode. Viserys isn't taking to this trip quite well, and the sea isn't helping his overall health. As Otto Hightower says in the next scene, the king will not live to be an old man. Speaking of which, Otto and his contingent of men back at King's Landing plan to leave the city and make for Old Town, the seat of House Hightower. After his firing, it's clear he doesn't want to be here, even if his daughter does not wish him to go, and he flat out accuses her of being complicit in his termination. His own daughter has chosen Rhaenyra over him and Aegon, because Alicent doesn't have what it takes to claim what is hers. But all of that is about to change. Alicent isn't gonna take it lying down. Okay, maybe I should have used that clip. Otto shouldn't have been relentless in his pursuit of seeing Aegon as heir. In fact, in the books, that's what leads to Otto being fired. The man just won't shut up harassing the king about Aegon. And Otto paints a pretty grim picture of what would happen should Rhaenyra ascend the throne. The realm would not accept a woman as heir, and houses the Targaryens have spurned, such as the Lannisters, Hightowers, and Dondarrions, would likely revolt. We also learned last episode that the small folk or common folk don't take to Rhaenyra that well either. Otto says to her daughter that to strengthen Rhaenyra's claim, she would have to kill Alicent and her children. So if you thought tensions between these two are bad now, just you wait. The royal carriage, the same one we saw during the royal hunt, makes its way along the causeway to High Tide, the seat of House Valerian on the island of Driftmark. When the waters of Blackwater Bay are at high tide, it cuts the island off from Driftmark proper, and that's likely Spice Town below it. King Viserys makes his way up this giant cliff and is like,
"Give me something for the pain, and let me die."
At the top of High Tide, we see Laenor Velaryon sparring with Joffrey Lonmouth, also known as the Knight of Kisses. To the public, he is Sir Laenor's friend, but they are secret lovers. We also see a much more grown-up Laena Velaryon than when we saw her almost marry the king in episode 2. Okay, we need to talk about this rat Larys Strong, and damn does this guy know how to play the Game of Thrones. First, he uses the Mavail flower as a metaphor for Alicent herself, an outsider thriving among the natives. Just as this flower came from outside King's Landing, so too did Alicent, as she is not a Targaryen by blood. Their talk gets off to an awkward start. Larys' father just took over Alicent's father's job, but Larys offers himself as an ally. He's pretty soft-spoken and tends to mill about in the background observing, something that makes him a purveyor of secrets and gossip. This could come in handy. Remember, he asked to sit with the ladies while at the hunt, taking in their rumors as he enjoyed a delicious cookie. Manipulating information for his own personal gain is what Larys does best. He innocently asks the queen if Rhaenyra is okay. He had heard the night Otto was dismissed that Grand Maester Mellos brought the princess a special tea, so it must be very serious. But Larys must know that this tea was concocted as a sort of plan B, and that the queen was unaware of its creation. For the queen believed Rhaenyra when she vowed on the memory of her mother that her virginity was still intact. But if Rhaenyra was a virgin, why would she be given this tea? This is what spurs Alicent to question Sir Criston later on, and oh boy, we'll get to that. So far, I'm giving Larys 4 Peter Baelishes out of 5. In the bowels of High Tide, Aelena and Rhaenyra are barred from entering the meeting between the king and Corlys. It's a physical reminder that she has no say even in the terms of her marriage. Corlys's throne room is adorned with various treasures from his voyages, and his throne seems to be crafted from pieces of driftwood. And what is with these kings and their models? The award for most awkward introduction goes to Rhaenys, who tries to shake her cousin's hand, forgetting he's lost a few fingers. Lord Corlys is the first to inform the king of Lady Rhea Royce's passing, a hunting mishap it was called. Viserys finds this rather odd, as he's informed Rhea was a fine rider, and he had just told his brother to go back there to his wife. This whole event also calls into question Rhea's land, because Daemon and Rhea had no heirs. Will her property pass to Daemon? Later in the episode, we'll hear that after his niece's wedding, he plans to travel to the Vale and petition Lady Jane Arryn for this land. You may have also noticed that this is the first time the king refuses drink, really pointing out just how sick he really is. We know he's quite the drinker. Viserys has come with the offer of Rhaenyra's hand to Sir Laenor, and Corlys's balls are so huge here that instead of immediately accepting, he wants to hammer out some details. What's going on with the succession, and will their grandchildren take the male heir's last name as is tradition? Should Rhaenyra and Laenor have a child, their firstborn will sit on the throne, whether they be male or female. Rhaenys lets out a little laugh here. The only reason Viserys is on the throne in the first place was that Jaehaerys passed on her because she was a girl. But you know Viserys always down with the patriarchy, of course not when it comes to matters of your wife giving birth. The last name is also a contentious issue to which the two come to an agreement. Laenor and Rhaenyra's children will take the Valyrian name, but when it comes time to take the throne, they shall become Targaryen. This solidifies that a Targaryen will always be sitting on the throne, something very important to Viserys, who believes Aegon's dream that a Targaryen must be on the throne when the darkness comes. Rhaenyra takes a stroll on the beach with her future cousin husband. It's a union neither of them want. They don't hate each other or anything, it's just that they're forced into this situation against their will, so Rhaenyra offers an arrangement. Meanwhile, at Laenor's bachelor party,
Give your love to a cowboy man.
Rhaenyra, having grown up with Laenor and presumably having heard the rumors, knows that he prefers men. So why not do their duty, get married, and they can see whoever they want? It's an arrangement Joffrey Lonmouth thinks is amazing. The king consort can spend the rest of his days attending feasts and tournaments and still get to see him. In Corlys's throne room, we see Crabfeeder's mask, which he's taken as a token of victory. And give it up for Corlys, who still thinks his son is going through a gay phase.
He will outgrow it.
Sure, Jan.
Rhaenys, unlike Corlys, is very worried about their son's engagement. She knows that the realm will not allow Rhaenyra on that throne, which puts a target on their son's back. But Corlys tries to quell his wife's fears. Merging with the Targaryens would give them the largest fleet and half the dragons in the realm. Who would dare fight against that? Joffrey swears to be Laenor's sworn protector, but he's also curious about Rhaenyra's proposal. If the princess wants this arrangement, there must be someone in her life she's doing this for, so he makes it his goal to find out who her mystery paramour is. Rhaenyra looks out upon the open ocean. It's reminiscent of Luke Skywalker yearning for a world beyond his own. It's a very purposeful shot choice considering what Sir Criston is about to offer the princess. What if there was a different path for her, one which led to freedom where the two of them could travel the world? They'd make their way to Sunspear and onwards to Essos, where they would marry not for crown but for love. Rhaenyra takes a moment to think. She is the crown, and it is her duty to marry a noble man, but this doesn't mean he still can't be her sworn knight and have those sweet bonus perks. This is not the answer Criston hoped for. He already took a risk by forswearing his Kingsguard oath, but now he's being subjugated to nothing but the princess's whore, something he thought he could redeem himself from if the two would marry. But Rhaenyra exclaims that the throne is larger than her, but Sir Criston has had enough and is like,
Why won't she love me?
The book offers a similar account of Criston professing his love, although this scene takes place in the princess's bedchamber and not on a boat. In this version, Rhaenyra is far more cruel to the knight, stating that she comes from the blood of the dragon and he's but a common sellsword. Regardless how this actually transpired, one thing is for certain, that quote, from that day forward, the love that Sir Criston Cole had formerly borne for Rhaenyra Targaryen turned to loathing and disdain, and the man who had hitherto been the princess's constant companion and champion became the most bitter of foes. Back at King's Landing, Queen Alicent watches the arrival of the king while he's like,
I've fallen, and I can't get up!
But instead of immediately going to the aid of her husband, who her father just reminded her is not long for this world, she calls in Sir Criston to hopefully get some more information about Rhaenyra and that special tea Sir Larys told her of. After all, Sir Criston is Rhaenyra's sworn protector. If there's anyone who knows anything, it's him. We get a brief glimpse of Helaena here, Viserys and Alicent's second child, as Criston enters this deliciously dramatic scene. It's set up perfectly, whereby Criston believes Alicent is questioning him about him and Rhaenyra instead of her and Daemon. And that fool just comes clean, telling the queen that the rumors of Rhaenyra's indiscretion are true, and to Alicent's surprise, it was him who was involved. This is Alicent's proof that Rhaenyra lied to her and on her mother's memory, no less, a lie which also led to her father being fired. So if there ever was a time for Alicent to cut things off with her bestie, it's now. Sir Criston only asks for a swift death, but to his surprise, Alicent releases him. In the king's chambers, Viserys is barely hanging in there. I just hope he doesn't ask for any late-night booty calls. I also love how the closer his Valyrian city comes to completion, the closer he comes to death. His hand is by his side, and the two have a brief discussion about his legacy. What will Viserys be remembered for? He has no conquests nor defeats. Is it better to have lived in peace and be forgotten, or die in infamy and have songs sung after his death? It's 1 week before the wedding as a host of Valyrian ships, including 2 dragons, Seasmoke and Meleys, arrive at King's Landing. This is our first time seeing Meleys, who is ridden by Rhaenys. Now, in one of the earlier trailers for the show, they used the exact same shot, but with a huge difference. This one has 7 dragons flying around. I'm curious why the showrunners decided to take it out. Harold Westerling, captain of the Kingsguard, has the honor of announcing all the houses the king has spurned, including the Lannisters and Hightowers, notably absent Otto Hightower, who's made his way back to Old Town. To add insult to injury, many of these lords, like Jason Lannister, have to congratulate the queen even though they did not receive her hand in marriage. And don't even make me bring up his weird comment about women being late for war. Gerald Royce approaches the king wanting to discuss the curious case of his cousin's death, but they're interrupted by House Valerian's arrival, and poor Sir Criston has to watch as his love welcomes her future husband, Laenor. Much to everyone's surprise is the arrival of Daemon, who was cast out from King's Landing at the end of episode 4. Now the king could have him thrown out, but it's the welcome feast for his daughter's wedding, all the lords of the realm are watching, and he'd rather not make a scene. But the most badass arrival belongs to Queen Alicent. Take note of this green dress, as Sir Loras remarks green is the color the beacon at Old Town shines when the High Towers go to war. Alicent tells Rhaenyra,
Congratulations, stepdaughter. What a blessing this is for you.
but what she meant to say was,
Bye, bitch.
the welcome feast commences 7 days of tournaments and feasts, which will end with the royal wedding. It's a particularly gay affair, and no, I'm not just talking about Sir Joffrey checking out Laenor. There are actually so many moving parts to the scene and different power dynamics going on between many of these characters. First, we have Gerald confronting Daemon, but it's going to be hard to convict the prince as there's no evidence. Furthermore, after the wedding, Daemon plans to go to the Vale and take Rhea's land. Second, we have this flirty interaction between Laena and Daemon. Daemon is a bachelor now after all, and his dancing is about as bad as mine. Now, a lot of people have been guessing that this man here is Mushroom, one of the largest contributors, that's a terrible pun, of accounts found in Fire and Blood. In the book, he's a court jester, so there's just not enough information to back up that this is him at the moment. Joffrey makes quick work, surmising that Rhaenyra's paramour is none other than her sullen sworn knight, Sir Criston. And he makes a hell of a move, telling the knight to keep Rhaenyra and Laenor safe, and that his secret is safe with him. If you're Sir Criston here, you gotta be like, aw great, now the queen and this asshole knows a secret that could potentially get me killed. And are we just gonna ignore how Viserys eats? There's also a brief dance between Harwin Strong and Rhaenyra, which ends with Daemon pulling his niece aside and the two of them speaking in High Valyrian so no one else can understand them. Rhaenyra taunts him here, why not just sweep her away to Dragonstone so the two of them can wed? Daemon grabs her here and the king is like,
What in the hell?
But before anything happens, complete pandemonium breaks out. Now I'm going to break down all the little details here, but it's important to note that this does not happen in the book. There is no welcome feast brawl, and Sir Joffrey Lonmount's death actually occurs during one of the tournaments. Sir Criston, having not received Rhaenyra's favor at one of these tournaments like he did in the first episode, makes it his mission to completely destroy Laenor's knight, killing Joffrey in the process. So we never actually see what started this brawl, whether there were some words exchanged between Joffrey and Criston, or if it was unprovoked. But think of it from Sir Criston's perspective. You've just had the love of your life reject you, you've broken the oath you held so highly, your secret has been found out, and now the queen's future husband's lover is barking orders about how you should do your job. I'd be pretty pissed too. During the fight, Laenor tries to help Joffrey, but gets socked in the face and pummeled by other party guests. This brawl isn't just between Joffrey and Criston, but various houses using it as an opportunity to release their frustration. To make matters worse, the king's health worsens. This is what happens when you eat that chicken too fast. One of the more interesting aspects of this brawl is Lionel Strong ordering his son to do something. I wasn't quite sure if the intention here was to save Rhaenyra, which he does, or to further stoke the brawl. Maybe a combination of both. Either way, this seems to me like a very calculated move. The brawl ends with Sir Criston having turned Joffrey's face into a pile of ground beef, officially making this Sir Joffrey's worst welcome feast ever. It's interesting that Sir Criston isn't arrested here. Being a member of the Kingsguard, he'll likely face some sort of judgment, if of course he doesn't exact judgment on himself. The fact Sir Criston decides to commit suicide in front of a werewood is interesting. Werewoods are used to bear witness to important ceremonies, like marriages or oaths. Jon Snow and Samwell Tarly said their Night's Watch vows in front of one. It is believed that the old gods watch through the faces of these trees. Sir Criston is stopped by Alicent. She knows that he is an honest man and a good knight, and if there is one thing Alicent needs now more than ever, is someone who is honest. Among the ruined chaos of the Great Hall, Rhaenyra and Laenor are wed in a small ceremony. It's probably a good call considering no one will likely be in the mood for those 7 days of feasts and tourney after what transpired. Laenor can barely get through his vows as he's still weeping over the death of Joffrey. And in the light of the seven, the mother, father, warrior, smith, maiden, crone, and stranger, the two are wed. Aww. but if things couldn't get any worse, the king collapses, his crown falling on the ground. If that isn't a metaphor for his imminent demise, but just how much longer will the king live? It's been my understanding that this is the last episode featuring Millie Alcock and Emily Carey, who play Rhaenyra and Alicent respectively. Next episode, they'll be played by their older counterparts, hinting that we'll be seeing a significant time jump. I haven't seen the preview yet, but I hope to have a video out on that within the day for those of you wanting spoilers. If you really want to help me out, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment on what you think is going to happen next. And for more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember,
because a woman will never be ready for the battle in time.